Isolde, now blind to the supernatural, must learn to live in a world she can no longer see. Alaric, restored to mortality, must live knowing his freedom cost her the gift that defined her. The hallway. Morning light fell through a window Isolde could no longer see, but she felt it, warm across her face, a reminder that the ordinary world still moved without her permission. The hallway stretched before her in shades of grey that meant nothing, stone beneath her palms as she navigated, one hand trailing the wall, each step deliberate, each footfall a small triumph of orientation. The candlelight had guttered sometime in the night. She'd noticed by the change in air temperature the absence of that particular warmth. The hallway had become what it always was underneath, cold, empty, indifferent to whether she could see it or not. Alaric emerged from the darkness, though she didn't see him emerge. She heard his breathing first, then the soft scrape of boot heel on stone. Her name in his voice was different now, no longer the incantation of someone bound to shadow. He sounded tired. That was new. She turned toward the sound, her hand still trailing the wall, as if she might anchor herself there. "You're awake early." "I don't sleep the way I used to." A pause. She heard him shift his weight, a small sound of discomfort, mortal joints learning their own fragility. "I kept thinking the sun would never come. Now it does, every morning, and I don't know what to do with it." She let her hand drop from the wall. The hallway stretched between them. How much distance she couldn't say. 10 feet, 20. The world is quieter now. I didn't expect that. She reached out, her fingers finding the cool stone of the wall again, using it to orient herself. The texture was unchanged. Everything solid remained solid. It was only the invisible that had abandoned her. "I can see the sun!" Alaric's voice cracked on the second sentence. "Feel it on my skin. I'm mortal, Isolde, because you—" He stopped. She heard him turn away. A sharp movement, his breathing suddenly uneven. Isolde didn't reach for him. The impulse came strong and immediate, but she held it back. This new distance between them, it was its own kind of honesty. She'd learned in the past hours that touch was no longer automatic. Reaching meant risking the empty air where she expected to find him. "You're free," she said quietly. "That was always the price I was willing to pay." "The price you paid." His voice came from farther away now, near the window, she thought, where the light was. "Not the one I asked for." "No," she didn't soften the word. "It wasn't." The hallway held the silence between them. Dust motes, she imagined, though she couldn't see them anymore. The weight of centuries pressing down through stone. Candle wax, old incense, the faint green-dark smell of a place that had known more death than life. "I can't see you anymore," she said. "Not truly." Her voice sounded flat, factual. She was still learning how to say things without the sight sense bleeding through, that extra layer of perception that had shown her the shimmer of his soul, the ancient hunger in his eyes, the terrible beauty of what he'd been. Now there was only a man in the dark with her, only his voice and the space he occupied. Footsteps. He was coming toward her. She heard him stop a few feet away, close enough that she could have reached him if she tried. She didn't try. "Nor I you, my love," he said, "but our souls remain entwined." It sounded like something he'd prepared, a comfort he'd been holding in reserve, waiting for the moment when she needed it most. She almost smiled at that, at the thought of Alaric, centuries of shadow and sorrow, rehearsing words like a mortal man. His hands found hers. She felt the shock of it first, the warmth of living flesh, the pulse in his wrist where her fingers brushed. No spectral glow, no supernatural cold, just a man, breathing, warm, temporary, in a way he'd never been before. How can I love a man condemned to age and die? The question escaped before she could stop it. Fear underneath it, sharp and bitter. She'd already lost him once to eternity. The thought of losing him again, to time, to the ordinary cruelty of mortality, was a different kind of curse. She pulled away slightly. Her hand slipped from his, and she heard rather than saw him absorb the rejection, a small inhalation, the adjustment of his stance. "I'd rather fade with you than live an eternity without your light." He cupped her face then, both hands bracketing her cheeks. His thumbs found the hollows beneath her eyes. The places where the sight had burned brightest had left her hollowed out and new. She felt his touch trace the contours of a face he could see and she could only know through his hands. "Then let us face this darkness together," she said, "as we always have." The words were surrender and defiance all at once. She leaned into his touch and his hand steadied her, not the supernatural reassurance of a centuries-old creature, just the grip of someone mortal and afraid and trying anyway. The hallway remained what it had become, ordinary, empty, without mystery. No spirits whispered in the corners. No shadows moved with intention. The portraits on the wall, she couldn't see them anymore, couldn't feel the weight of their stares, were just paint and canvas now. But Alaric was here, real, warm, fading into age and death like everything else that lived. She reached up and found his face in the darkness, her fingers mapping the contours she had once seen whole. The sight was gone, burned away as the price of his freedom. But this slow, mortal knowledge of him through touch, this was something new, something that might in time be enough. Behind them, the candles in their iron sconces began to gutter. Outside, the ordinary sun climbed higher, indifferent to the woman who could no longer see its light except as warmth on her skin.